Erik and Lyle Menendez will ask a judge to reconsider the convictions of those brothers in what's called a status conference hearing today. The brothers serving life sentences without the possibility of parole for the 1989 murders of their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. So what we want to know this morning, there are three paths to freedom, really, for the brothers. So let's see how successful today's path could really be, right? So look at these on your screen. It's clemency from the governor. We know there's also a resentencing hearing scheduled for December 11th, and we've got a habeas corpus petition hearing set to happen today. So taking these in turn, California Governor Gavin Newsom declined to grant the brothers' clemency petition. He's deferring to the brand new DA of Los Angeles County, Nathan Hochman, who spoke about the possibility of recommending resentencing to the court. He talked to Court TV about that. Let's listen.
The way resentencing works is that on December 11th, there'll be a hearing. If I'm ready to proceed and have done that extensive factual and legal review, we'll proceed. If not, I might ask for some additional time, but I've got 34 years of criminal justice experience.
Now, besides clemency and resentencing, the third option for potential freedom is a habeas corpus petition, filed last year, actually, asking for a review of some brand new evidence that was not presented at trial. So that's what's going to be discussed today at the hearing that's set for 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The brothers are going to be there virtually. They won't be there in person. No cameras are being allowed in the courtroom, but we do have someone from Court TV who's going to be inside the courtroom watching everything that happens for us and reporting back on the details. So will be an interesting day. Now, we've assembled a panel of sensational prosecutors to talk about this. I want to bring them in right now. Let's welcome in former prosecuting attorney. He's in the private sector practicing right now. He's also the Speaker Pro Tem in the House in South Carolina, Tommy Pope. And want to welcome in his colleague. They worked together, putting away Susan Smith. You just saw him on TV last week, the current solicitor for the 16th Judicial Circuit of South Carolina, attorney Kevin Brackett. Kevin, great to have you on opening statements. Welcome. And I'm so glad I have you with Tommy. You two are sensational lawyers and sensational prosecutors. Your service has been tremendous in South Carolina, both of you. So, Kevin, I'm going to start with you since you're here first today. Let's talk about the brothers being released. Do you think that there's actually a chance that they could be that their freedom could be announced as soon as today?
Well, Julie, it's California, so anything could happen. I would have one opinion if we were talking about South Carolina or other parts of the country, and a different opinion for California. They have a different set of rules and standards they go by, apparently. So it is possible, but it sounds more like, just from the way that this is being postured, that this is more of an opportunity for the parties to get together and sort of lay out a timeline for what might happen, what each party would need to be prepared, and to make sure that they're on schedule. So that's typically what happens at a status conference.
Right, Kevin, thank you for tempering our expectations with the caveat that it's California, as you said, so who the heck knows? Tommy Pope, the two pieces of evidence, as you know, this letter that came up, apparently Erik is said to have written this letter to a relative. They say that it was written before trial, before he gave the testimony about being abused by his father. But it's been noted by people in that office, particularly one who came on Court TV, John Lewin, that we really don't know about this letter. We have no idea when it was written. It could have been written a couple weeks ago. But it's one of the things nonetheless. Also, the other thing is that there's some outside corroboration for the claims. One of the members of the boy band Menudo is willing to come forward and say that he was molested by Jose Menendez at the mansion where the family lived, and so also serving as potential corroboration. What do you think about these pieces of evidence?
I tell you, Julie, one, I'm disappointed. Brackett took my job as solicitor. Now you got him on Court TV. You're about to put me out the pasture, I know. But
no, never.
I tell you,
never, Tom.
We have actually experienced, the quote after discovered evidence on some of our death penalty cases Kevin and I've dealt with, and it's just ironic to me that this information always comes so remotely that it's hard to disprove it, so to speak. We had Kevin will remember the stranger under the bridge that they miraculously found. We have, I'm concerned, fabrication, if you want to call it. I'm concerned about fabrication. I'm concerned that I thought the first trial that ended in a mistrial, if I've read it correctly, these issues came up. So I'm really interested in why, if it was out there already, why it wasn't brought up. I guess they're saying this is better evidence now. And ultimately I'm concerned. It seemed a lot political. We don't want to drive justice by Netflix specials and so it concerned me that prosecutor, it's interesting, we've got a new prosecutor who's going to put a fresh set of eyes on it.
Exactly. I love what you said, Tommy. I couldn't agree more. A fabrication, and that's something one of the deputy DAs in the office, John Liu, and I keep going back to him because he's someone we all know at Court TV, famously prosecuted Robert Durst. We saw him on Court TV Live for many weeks trying that case, and he said that in particular, Lyle, he said, but both of these brothers have a history of fabricating evidence during the first trial when, as you noted, Tommy, all of this stuff was allowed in. We know the abuse claims were largely excluded in the second trial. And John Lewin said, how in the world can we trust this? It hasn't been vetted. So he's been one of those outspoken people who disagreed vehemently with George Gascon, the outgoing DA. I've got a clip of him talking to the media about how there's such a split in his office. Let's watch.
I have to tell you unequivocally that we don't have a universal agreement. There are people in the office that strongly believe that the Menendez brothers should stay in prison the rest of their life, and they do not believe that they were molested. And there are people in the office that strongly believe that they should be released immediately.
Even so, Kevin, let me go back to you, please. Even so, their sentence was life in prison without parole. I mean, these were cold-blooded murders, as you know. Why in the world are these guys entitled to consideration? I guess, I think of all the other criminals who are locked up for the same kind of thing, and why are the Menendez brothers looking for special treatment? Your thoughts on that, please, Kevin?
Well, sometimes in cases like this that are high profile, there's a tendency to suddenly find reasons to kick the embers and bring these cases back to life. They drew so much attention before, so it'll draw attention again. And that affects these potential witnesses who might come forward because, it gives them a chance to sort of become involved and be in the limelight for a minute. It really makes me wonder why this is even being considered, because typically an after discovered evidence issue focuses on actual innocence. And this seems to be more of an effort to revisit a motion, an evidentiary motion that occurred in the trial, not to question whether or not they were guilty, but whether, they had some mitigation for why they may have done what they did, which, that sort of thing can go on forever. And if this becomes the standard for how we're going to look at cases after the fact, then if we're going to be able to dig into it to this granular level and try to adjust these sort of collateral issues, then, when will victims ever get resolution? Because any case is subject to having this kind of issue revisited and new evidence supposedly found that's going to alter how the sentence should have been imposed. So I don't really understand it from the East Coast, how this sort of issue could even arise.
I love your analysis, Kevin, and you're right. When it really gets down to it, you pointed out something that's so key. What does this have to do with the facts of it? I mean, this was a planned, premeditated, brutal killing. I mean, after they had fired so many shots, they went out and reloaded and came back and fired more. And then they went on to spend their parents' money. I mean, blowing something like $700,000 in 6 months, living like kings. These guys certainly didn't act remorseful or act like victims then. What is this even about? I love that point, Kevin. Tommy, let me ask you, please, about the Menendez mania. When you're a prosecutor, the job that you held for so many years that Kevin holds now, Tommy, how key is it to tune out the noise from the